Hello, and welcome to our webinar, Quantum AI Revolution, Real-World Applications Today and Tomorrow. I'm Helen Teplitskaya, the founder and president of Global Alliance on Sustainability and AI, and I'm delighted to have you with us today. I'm thrilled to be joined by participants from all Earth continents, except Antarctica, representing 17 countries, a plethora of industry titans like IBM, Microsoft, Google, Meta, and Quantum, along with enthusiastic business community members, underscoring global interest in our really truly revolutionary and transformative topic. As we explore the convergence of quantum computing and artificial intelligence, it's essential to recognize that these evolving technologies pose significant risks related to privacy, cybersecurity, significant risks related to misuse, ethical considerations, and real challenges in accountability in automated decision making. Not to say that they will definitely impact jobs. However, although quantum supremacy has not yet been universally established, we are already seeing significant applications in quantum computing combined with AI in sectors such as healthcare, finance, cybersecurity, space, demonstrating the profound impact of these technologies. Today, our truly exceptional expert panel will dive into these technologies and highlight the real world applications, the challenges it had, and truly amazing, inconceivable opportunities that lie ahead. I highly encourage you to engage in the Q&A sessions. Your questions, your insights are really invaluable for all of us while we explore this amazing topic. Now, I'm pleased to introduce my co-host, Tom Testy, who modestly calls himself ethical AI guy, and we shall start. Tom, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Helen. Yeah, first I want to welcome everyone here. I appreciate you all attending. Let's start off with Christopher. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then we'll start some questions with you.
Okay, so I'm Christopher Bishop. I'm the host of Qubit Confidential, which is a podcast where I interview C-suite execs at leading quantum companies. I'm also a host and master of ceremonies. I work closely with Malak Trabelsi-Loeb, who's in the webinar, helping her as the MC for the Quantum Innovation Summit, which is held annually in Dubai. I also do sessions for The Economist as a master of ceremonies and moderate panels on the topic of quantum and AI. I'm delighted to be here.
Thank you. Why is quantum computing so compelling?
I think it's good that we start with that topic, right? So the idea is that quantum computing, which is one of the four sort of meta categories, if you will, so quantum computing, which gets all the press and is kind of the darling of the media, has tremendous potential to solve problems that are currently intractable, NP hard, right? Problems we can't solve with current classical, even HPC kinds of solutions. So the implications are discoveries around molecular modeling, drug discovery, drug development, new cures, new vaccines could be enabled by the power of quantum computing. Materials science is being investigated, focus on climate change, sustainability issues, finding new ways to generate, store, and retrieve energy, certainly around financial services models, anomaly detection, portfolio optimization, running complex Monte Carlo simulations. So that's why it's so exciting. There's lots of potential for incredible impact on how we live and work based on the potential power of quantum computing.
Chris, What do you think? How will AI and quantum computers interact in the future? We know right now just the beginning, but what do you think about the future prospects?
Is that a question for me?
Yes,
Okay.
I
Future
said
prospects.
Chris.
You did. Okay. Sorry. Um, so AI is data heavy, right? Large language models. It's taking information and crunching it, rationalizing it, assembling it. And quantum computers are excel at multi-process data, analysis, if you will. So the implication is quantum can accelerate AI applications. It can take data and run it and analyze it and rationalize it much faster than traditional classical HPC kinds of environments. So I think that's the potential is tremendous for how the two can interoperate. There's even topics like synthetic data that quantum computers could, in theory, generate because we've kind of scraped all the internet currently. There's a lot of conversations around, who owns the data and what data to capture next. So possibly generating synthetic data could expand the capabilities of AI with the help of quantum.
Okay, let's turn to you, Orla. Would love to hear your thoughts on what Chris shared and how we will benefit from a quantum AI future, and what industries do you think will feel the impact of quantum first? You're on mute.
Of course I am. There always has to be one culprit of I'm on mute. So hey everybody, it's great to be back. I was on the show with you all a couple of months back, and I've had some changes in my life since then. So actually just shared with Helen and Thomas, I recently left Microsoft. So starting a new adventure for myself here. So yeah, I was at Microsoft for 20 odd years, and most recently on the quantum ecosystem engagement team, where we were also doing AI for scientific discovery, and it was a hell of a journey. And I learned a ton. So like I guess my main caveat on this show for folks listening and tuning in is that I'm really not a quantum expert. I'm more quantum curious. And every day I get even more curious and trying to learn even more about this fascinating field. So I I'm really excited about where the future is going. So I spent a lot of time at Microsoft and AI, and just to Chris's point, there is this symbiotic relationship that I'm seeing between AI and quantum. And I started penning a little series on LinkedIn about quantum and golf. And so I sort of think about I sort of think about quantum as the driver, right, in your bag, where it's gonna go places where no other club can go on the course. It's going to enable you to tackle new challenges that no other club in your bag can. But that's not to say that the other clubs aren't powerful at all. They're super powerful, right? AI and HPC together are unlocking, like what Chris is saying, a ton of opportunities already with broad sets of data and high compute. But where a quantum excels is in these really complex simulations, right? So, which brings me, Tom, to your question around industries. So, what industries do I think are going to be impacted the most are the ones that are really simulation heavy or optimization heavy. So, think about pharmaceutical, think about manufacturing, think about logistics. Chris mentioned finance. And yes, there's opportunity there in terms of the Monte Carlo simulations and whatnot, but also I think finance will be impacted from a security, a cybersecurity perspective, as will healthcare, as will government, right? So I think there's a ton of industries that are going to be impacted, but from different angles, but definitely from where quantum compute excels. I think we're seeing early movement in the ecosystem with drug discovery and material science in particular.
Helen?
Yeah, uh, reality today. Are businesses already really using quantum AI tech today? There is a lot of speculation, there is a lot of skepticism, and a ton of excitement. So what's your feel? What is the story?
Look, we're in the very early days, right? So like think about AI where we were almost a decade ago, where we're in the early days of experimentation. So absolutely, organizations are already using and seeing benefit from that symbiotic relationship, right, between AI and quantum. AI continues, honestly, to be the lead. But I recently learned University of Toronto and in silico medicine, oh my gosh, blew my mind, right? So there's this protein called CRAS that drives, I think, a third of the cancers out there. And previously has been considered undruggable. But the University of Toronto and in silico have seen some promising results where they're using AI and quantum together to design molecules. And out of 15 candidates that they arrived at, I think I saw that two are showing positive results in the lab. So that's like drug discovery. I think if listeners go online, ask our good friends ChatGPT, Claude, whoever, you'll see IonQ, Quantinuum also making progress in drug discovery. Microsoft too as well. Obviously, shout out to my old team. And then I think I also being Irish, I also want to give a shout out to this company Equal One that I learned about recently. So I was at home a couple of weeks ago, got talking to some folks and learned about this amazing company Equal One out of Cork in Ireland. And they're actually using AI, some really smart engineering to figure out how we can have quantum and classical working together in data centers. And actually, they just announced Bell One, a new system that is exactly that, based on silicon. So it's going to be able to scale fast as well. So there's, from an actual data center perspective, real progress being made to see how we can enable this hybrid future. Our good friends in Quantum, the Quantum Insider, which is a great publication if folks don't know about it already, where they're really trying to drive more awareness as to all the great stuff that's going on right in the quantum ecosystem. So they organize, I think it's annually, I'm not sure, I'll have to check with Evan Cubes, but I think they organize a challenge, with sponsorship from corporations. So I think last year it was BMW and Airbus. But there was one company in there, Four Colors, right, that won the challenge around logistics, where they're using AI quantum together to figure out how to optimize global supply chains as well. So it's real. It's early days, so it's not, super scalable right now. It's more in that experimentation, but early results have been shown. So it's not, science fiction far away off. It is actually here and now.
Okay, let's turn to Malik. Tell us a little bit about yourself. And my question for you is quantum AI is not merely a technological evolution, it challenges the very architecture of decision making. How do you envision its integration into high stakes domains like national security, diplomacy, autonomous command system, and autonomous command systems?
Thank you so much for having me one more time. I am audible. Yeah,
Yes, you are.
perfect. Thank you to you, Helen, Tom, and it's great to see Orla and Chris, of course, is my partner in crime at the Quantum Innovation Summit. He's doing a great job. And actually, I see also Alex, I see Christoph, and so many other peoples who I work with or I am in connection to. So talking about what we are doing, and it's great to hear Chris spoke about the Quantum Innovation Summit, Orla spoke about challenge and community building and awareness, very interesting and important. Actually, we started our work at Vernwell Group with the first company. It was Tech and Space. Then we changed the name to Vernwell Management Consultancies in 2020. But my work spans before, which is coming from the legal perspective, because my profession is international business law jurist, and I founded Triple C Law Legal Consultants. And the main work it was space industry and international space law, international business law. And in the course of my work in the space industry, of course, we have issues related to export control. We have issues with dual use technologies, and we face always in international contracts, compliance issues and national security laws. So by the time, and I repeat it all the time, because we hear so many people, they speak about quantum technologies as it's one technology, or it's one standalone, and it's still experimental. And it's not true. I'm sorry to say that, because actually when we talk about quantum communication, it's ripe, and we have companies deploying technologies that are already proof of concept is done since some time. I highlight ID Quantique and others who are of the like. They are working on deployment of this technology or their technology into the stream of different businesses. So I'm talking from the industry itself and through the contracts I've been in first. So actually, when I started in this sector, it was really, really difficult when it comes to the first issue, which is the awareness. So in 2020, and comparing to today, the awareness is totally spread. Still, we face some people who are skeptical, who do not know exactly where we are because of the confusion and the issues that actually, when we talk about quantum technologies, is not only quantum computing. You have quantum communication, you have cybersecurity now. Everyone is talking about. Companies are getting ready for the transition into the post-quantum era, which some scientists, they don't like the word, but let's say quantum safe era, and how to do all the work, which is layering the different strategies that it transit us to a more safe future, which is quantum ready. So this is one of the points that I wanted to put it in context. The second point, when we talk about doing the work and having KPIs, and I'm facing today from the awareness issues, we are not there anymore. We are orchestrating different activities and different initiatives. One of them is the Quantum Technology Adoption Program, and we bring different sector leaders in order to de-risk or work in different consortia or different groups in order to de-risk the technology and make the adoption next. So it's a very important strategy that it works. We are working on different use cases with different quantum technology leaders. Also, we are working on the adoption programs. We are bringing on the table different sectoral leaders. Like, for example, now we announced the Quantum Maritime Conference. It's totally sponsored as spearhead by Abu Dhabi Ports Group, which is one of the leading groups working related to all what is port operations, digitalization, and other. You can check it out. And this conference is going to be on the 8th and 9th October this year. And we are bringing different other stakeholders from logistics, from security, from different industries, even defense, in order to sit together and we work on different issues, how we can adopt and moving toward optimization and quantum communications and secure digital infrastructure. And it's very, very important. So when we talk about quantum, of course, we talk about AI and quantum AI. And I like Orla what she said, there is a big symbiosis between both of them. And it's very important to not consider one or the other and to work in both. Even though I face right now, and I work with both of them and I bring them to the table, I face some competition between both, because actually the AI, they work very, very hard, and they have their solution and they have their optimization. When they see others, they are coming for different solution, they feel they are left out, and they feel they are having big competition, and they got, closed on themselves, and they want to kick out the quantum people, which is something that I figure out is how can we get them together in order to work in a way that it is one way solution that can bring the different stakeholders, and they understand how optimization for quantum is done in order to be ready when quantum computing is very efficient. So like that, they start building their know-how and their, let's say, libraries, because it's very, very important. And challenges is one of them. During the Quantum Innovation Summit, actually, we had the final of the Q Innovation Challenge. We have launched a consortium. It's called Q Innovation. And in that, we had stakeholders who gave us the problems, like Thales, like Merck Group, like the NYU University CQTS is the Center for Quantum and Topological System, like Classic and others, and AWS, they gave us the access to this to their platform in order to allow the stakeholders to work on the challenges. And we had Capgemini winner, we had winner amazing group from Saudi Arabia, which are females only group, and we have the NYU CQTS as winner. And actually, we are working on the next step, how we can move forward with these technologies in order to make it. So the main point of this is adoption, and also is bringing the scattered stakeholders in the region together with the international stakeholders in order to create this ecosystem that we've been driving since 2020. And going back to the national security is very, very important when it comes to autonomous systems, because the national security and defense is what got me to the quantum arena. And the potential is huge and is very, very important. And know very well what we see to the public today is not what is happening in the defense industry. There's a lot of skunk works, there's a lot of activities are happening. And actually, I've been highlighting since 2019 or before, the unpublicized investments from or funding from the government into different activities that it goes under the Ministry of Energy or the energy related governmental entities. So they did not get it into the public, and there is so much under the surface, and we will see a boom like no tomorrow. And we know very well that at least what is happening with AI, it was happening 10 years ago, maybe it's not even more, that the NATO and others, they work on decision making using AI, which is only done for the defense industry.
It's fascinating, beyond fascinating, I would say mind-boggling. And I could probably refer some people who are interested in the defense applications. There is at least some information in public domain disclosed by DARPA. It's obvious why not everything about quantum applications is in the public domain, because there is such a risk for malicious actors to get their hands on it, and creating existential risks for all of us. So what do you think, Malak? Given your truly exceptional expertise in legal, and honestly, I have no idea how you can combine this all, but what do you identify as the most urgent regulatory gaps when it comes to quantum AI, particularly in the areas regarding like data rights, explainability, and liability? We're witnessing now really scary-looking litigations between some established companies and aspiring quantum companies. I'm not going to name names, but you probably know about some of them. And what could you share with us about the legal aspects?
actually, when it comes about the legal aspects, first of all, is like getting all these things together. It comes from passion, and I have a hamster here. So I'm ADHD person. So actually, I never stop learning, and I can get. It's painful. I work on so many things and learn so many things at the same time. So I don't know if you are ADHD high and we are suffering the same, but actually it's and more with the attention span. Even if people are not suffering from ADHD, they have a problem focusing, but actually the hyper attention is not there anymore. But if you are obnubilated and fascinated by something, even though with the attention span going down, actually you can juggle so many things at the same time. So now going back to the problems, actually I started getting
You're just simply a Renaissance woman, Malak.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's painful here, but anyway, I sleep very little and it's not good for my health. So the thing is, going back to the legal issues, and this started with AI. I was, even before the ChatGPT inflection point, or the AI inflection point with ChatGPT. I was working on different, or I work on different legal issues, and especially contract drafting and contract reviewing when it comes to international contracts. And actually, I was hit by a wave of issues that I see in the contracts, which is related to data and related to gaps, because actually lawyers, when they are, first of all, lawyers are doing the international contracts, they do not have background on how AI works and how the data issues is going to be erasing or is going to be arose when there is like a misunderstanding between the party. And I see always, even though they are happy together, at the end of the day, they have issues. When there are gaps in the contracts and strong gaps. So who owns the data that it is processed? What is the milestones of the projects? What are the KPIs? This I did not see in most of the early contracts, and that was I published something and I highlighted the points, and it's on the TL Legal Consultant page, and I said that these are the points that we're going to see a wave of litigation will happen later, and actually that's the truth. The problem also is related to quantum.
Can't hear you, Malak. You went mute.
I'm here. No.
Would you say?
I can hear you.
I can
Yeah.
hear. Yeah.
Maybe I talk too much. So actually stop me if I talk too much.
No, I can hear you.
So when it comes to quantum and AI, the problem, it is from national security perspective, it is worse. So you have economic espionage that we need to be careful. And actually, you have issues with cyber problems that it is not strictly legal, but it's technical, and the legal people, they need to understand.
I can't.
And the other problem that it is there, it is the third issues, among others, are the main problem of the who has access at the end of the day of the data, how the data is processed, and make sure that the solution and the data cannot be in the hand of a third party that you have export control related to it. So either they come through investments, and layer in investment, we need to have very strong due diligence in order to understand that you don't have, let's say, adversaries getting access to that solution and data. And the other problem also, it's through the joint ventures and the parties who are involved, whether in consultancies or others, that they could have access to the technology and can bring problems to the whatever stakeholders they are involved. So I stop there, but the legal challenges, I can go on for some time. It's enough.
Malak, we will have a special webinar on the legal aspects, and definitely we'll invite you to star in it, as always.
Okay, Christopher, let's go back to you. LLMs are running out of high quality data to train on now. We have largely scraped most of the internet. How might we use quantum computers to address this challenge?
Well, in theory, quantum computers can simulate complex physical systems, right? So by doing that, they would create synthetic data sets that classical computers could then maybe use in AI settings. So quantum gives you the data, and AI gives you the capability to manipulate it, and drive business models and achieve results that you couldn't achieve without that combined application. So I think it's exciting that it's a new model. Some say it's speculative. They're not sure if the amount of data or the kind of data that might be generated by these kinds of applications could be used. But I think it's being explored, and it's something that could be viable again as we're kind of running out of information to parse and rationalize and put into these large language models.
Yeah, I think that's great, Chris, because for AI today, we're training it on historical data, versus with the, like you mentioned earlier, the synthetic data is net new data that therefore AI can consume to potentially arrive at new solutions to different problems. So I agree
Yeah.
with you in terms of how we can layer it on.
I think also worth mentioning, it's always humans in the loop, right? So I think sometimes we sort of forget that it's people that are generating the data. I mean, using quantum computers in this case to do it, or data that gets scraped from the New York Times or from prestigious best-selling authors or research papers or whatever. I have a colleague who was working with an AI instance that a company has set up to have scientists propose problems for AI, putting together queries that involve figures and formulas, and then seeing, gauging what the result is, what the AI comes back with. So quantum could accelerate that kind of, meta level empirical research as well. Pretty amazing. Gauging whether
This
the
new trend
A-
with synthetic data. Interesting what you think about this. I mean, this is not the question I plan to ask, but since you mentioned the data issue, can you please very quickly elaborate on it?
well, you have to, so as as Tom was saying, we've kind of scraped the internet to some degree. The data that is available has been sort of assembled and reviewed and put into these models. So the idea that a quantum computer could, say, come up with a new novel approach to, say, solving a problem, which would then generate additional data that you could then put into a large language model to, further research for sure at an empirical level, but also then ultimately drive down into business models in verticals, right? Applications in real world settings. So that's the exciting part of that, right?
Absolutely. And
I know that like
yes, please.
I think Quantinuum, their Gen AI solution that they announced a wee while ago, that's already using, I think, uh, it's already using it's already using the data to train models, right? So that they can help unlock challenges that we face with the drug discovery. So I think I read something there, Chris, that Quantinuum are already doing exactly what you said. And I think IonQ is another one that I think I saw that they're using quantum enhanced models to create synthetic materials data and then using that to fine tune the language learning models as well. So I think,
Yeah.
Helen, to your previous question, like I think we're seeing more and more how it's being used in real life. So just
Yeah,
thought
it
I'd
certainly
add
seems
there,
like in
Chris, some stuff that I just recently read about.
yeah, it certainly seems like in pharma or drug discovery, drug development, molecular modeling, that's a place where you could create new kinds of data. I mean, they're also doing things like looking at expanding the periodic table. So that might give us new data that we could plug into an AI instance to determine maybe how materials are created and how they operate and how they interoperate and connect.
Mhm.
Very
You,
And
interesting.
Malak, I was thinking about I love your energy and everything that you shared. I'm learning so much from you. But I was thinking about that challenge that you talked about where you have AI researchers and quantum researchers not necessarily collaborating. But then like there's so much to be like benefit for that collaboration. I was chatting to some folks in Riverlane last week, and they're using AI to do a ton on error correction. Microsoft too, right? Recently
Yeah.
announced some breakthroughs there. And like for your listeners, like error correction is really the holy grail for quantum, right? So qubits are extremely fragile. Like quantum is powerful, but extremely fragile. And error correction is at the crux of it. Like if we can figure out how to correct errors and ensure that the qubits stay in a state of superposition or in the state of quantum for longer to be able to arrive at all the different solutions that they can arrive at, then that's where we really start to hit quantum advantage. And that's where AI is actually the most powerful tool right now to help the quantum researchers figure out how to correct the errors that happen along the way. And so it's the AI research that have a lot to benefit right now. And so Malik, it's an interesting challenge. I'm going to think about it some more.
And microseconds
Uh,
play a key
sorry,
role. Yes.
Sorry, I would like to intercept related to this in order to highlight something. Actually, what I meant about optimization issues that you have.
Okay.
Okay, so it's not, it's really some AI companies who are working on different sectors and they are working on verticals and they have their solution. Then you have optimization using quantum computing. And there, what we are seeing and facing is the conversions or not conversions yet. Well, this is what we try to do is to make them converge and work together in order and get the AI company ready through the quantum optimization or quantum inspired. But still, in the beginning, there is unwilling to like the resistance of the AI people who had already worked on their solution and their software to listen that the quantum computing can help and how to be ready and how to work together because they feel the threat. And here's the thing that we are doing, and it's interesting because and now we are getting the AI people to adopt the quantum technology in order to work with the AI and do some capacity building in their teams and work on different software. And actually, we're going to be launching a software in partnership with Classic. Actually, Classic, it's a partnership which is offering this kind of capability in order to get them involved.
Okay. That's great.
Ellen, you get the next question.
Chris, I want to get to Chris, if you don't mind. One of the reasons why I founded the Global Alliance on Sustainability and AI, and I want to stress that when I mention sustainability, my thinking goes way beyond climate change and actually to humanity. What happens to humans as a result of deployment of AI and now quantum AI? The impact is truly dramatic. There is not much published officially about it, but it's there. So, Chris, I came across your presentation. You shared it on LinkedIn about your recent presentation in the UK about the future of jobs. And I was fascinated. I came across the quote that you included about Queen Elizabeth in the 16th century, not issuing a patent, not to deprive her, and it's a direct wording, I think, poor subjects from having livelihood and jobs. So, what do you think about the role of talent in actually creation of quantum economy? And what kinds of opportunities exist for people interested in working with quantum and AI, not necessarily together?
Well, so I describe myself as a nonlinear multimodal careerist. I've had 8 careers so far. I did a lecture at Oxford last week on how to succeed at jobs that don't exist yet. I have a book that just came out called Improvising Careers. Um, My role in quantum as regards talent, I'm passionate about sort of workforce conversations, if you will. And for your listeners, viewers, or whatever, I think it's important to realize that at the end of the day, these companies, AI and quantum companies, are businesses, right? They are going to market. They're looking for addressable opportunity. They're looking to generate attributable revenue. They're looking to please either investors if they're privately held or the street if they're public. But the idea is there's lots of opportunity for people watching or listening to play a role. You don't have to be a PhD in condensed matter physics to play a role in the quantum AI synergistic environment that's emerging, right? They're going to need salespeople, biz dev, someone to go to the client and say, yeah, this is going to generate value for your company. They need UX design people, human computer interface people. I worked at IBM for 15 years. We had a team of PhDs in cognitive psychology who looked at all the web stuff we built, all the web services, all the applications. Like, how do people touch this stuff and interact with it? It's no different with quantum. You need people who are interested in having policy and regulatory conversations. You need people who are interested in the one discipline that serves all disciplines, education. That's a theme, right? Uh, you need picks and shovels people who are ready to run like a laser test bench, people with skills in program management, project management. How do you get a deliverable out the door on time, on budget, so the customer is happy with it and it works the way it's supposed to be? PR, comms, all the major banks have desks that are focused on quantum. The top management consulting firms, McKinsey, Accenture, Deloitte, on and on. So all by way of saying, my meta message around this diatribe is there are lots of ways to get involved in quantum, and I would encourage listeners, viewers, to think about it. If you're interested in it, it's a fascinating space. Lots of ways. If you have an interest in AI, in quantum, and you have some skills maybe in a non-scientific discipline, but find it interesting, look at career pages for these companies. I curate for the QEDC, Quantum Economic Development Consortium, a Google sheet with career pages for over 140 companies all over the world. And it's broken out by hardware, software services, by qubit modalities. So I'm happy to share that with you, Helen. We can distribute it.
Absolutely.
It's
And
open
while
source.
listening to you, Chris, I started thinking about, doing something on GASAI, Global Alliance on Sustainability and I'm gonna officially add quantum to our mission to have a special job section and educational, enlightening direction really strengthened in what we do, because this is its core. When I listen to this endless podcasts with the AI leaders who really calmly discuss how the jobs will be impacted and how now millions of people will lose their jobs and their livelihood, their whole, it's not, when we talk about it, it's not just one person, it's the whole family usually that is affected. And I can share with you that when I was just thinking about GASAI, and I spoke about it at a small event in Congress. I researched and I was mortified about the impact. And now I see how giants and the likes of Microsoft let brilliant people go. They used to have these plethora of ambassadors, and now some of them are let go. And I wonder what's going to happen. Shall we create a special body that will help companies to enlighten people? Because without community, there will be no market. Um, the the investments will not pour at a rate that they could if we could scale it as if we could prove it as scalable. But it's a subject for a special conversation. But this job situation is really critical, and
Yeah.
humans um, are at core of everything. I
Yeah.
strongly believe that these technologies will just augment, in a positive sense, what humans can do versus just malicious actors breaking through quantum generated codes.
Yeah.
and cybersecurity affected.
A couple more things I want to say, and then I'll get off my soapbox. But um, pattern matching. First of all, in terms of quantum and AI and these bleeding edge technologies, we're going to need talent. We're going to need people. We're going to need smart, interested, passionate people to make it go. For us as a culture, as a race, or whatever, to take advantage of this bleeding edge technology, it's going to take a lot of passionate, smart people to do it, right? So that's a call to action for everybody in this meeting and your colleagues or whatever. The other thing I would say is a way to kind of assuage fears around jobs going away is pattern matching. This has been going on for literally thousands of years. Technology displacing current roles and people having to figure out new skills to do new things. I mean, I always, in my lecture, I say, it's always driven by technology. Since we were wandering around in the Pleistocene wilderness and the state of the art technology was a long stick with a sharp end. And
In the
nowadays
presentation,
we're manipulating subatomic particles to store and retrieve information. So the other example I cite in my book is Henry Ford introducing the Model T in 1910 in Detroit. Farriers and blacksmiths got really nervous. Like, now what are we going to do? This horseless carriage has appeared. So, did they figure it out what to do? Farriers maybe opened a car wash, and blacksmiths learned how to repair an internal combustion engine. So, all by saying, take advantage of what you know how to do, figure out what you don't know how to do in the AI quantum space, and acquire the skills and move on. It's going to be cool. It's going to be really interesting.
I'd like to remind our community, and I shared multiple times the information about Bob Kirk's um, co-authored book about quantum and pictures.
Yeah, yeah.
This was a fascinating experiment for those of you who are not aware how Bob and the group of his Oxford colleagues experimented and shared it was, I believe, like a 2-month-old course for high school students. And then they offered them the exam. And even though most of these obnoxious school children who didn't even bother to turn their camera on to show their little faces to professors, or even to see them, they passed the exams with flying colors, with most people with distinction. And it ended up the postgraduate being the postgraduate quantum exam from Oxford. So it's hard to believe, but it did happen. And I now give Bob Cook's book as a gift to my friends, to children and their grandchildren, because that's where the future is. That's a very user-friendly way to study quantum. And we need to think about how to educate, how to help the community catch up and be able to benefit from this technology along with the high tech companies, making sure that their geographical location is not this impactful, and age is not this much of a factor. So it remains to be seen. So please find Bob Kirk's, and I'm sorry I forgot the name of his co-author. The book is called Quantum and Pictures.
Right.
Highly, highly recommended.
I
We
dropped
need to move on now. I think, did you share the link, Tom?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Course.
thank you so much. Yeah, and Bob Kirk was a speaker at our event. He even specially recorded the music for our event. I think it was in February. I encourage all of you to go to our YouTube channel and find it, because like Chris, Bob Kirk is also a musician. So we should ask you for a gig together, Chris, one time. Let's
Yeah,
have a special
we have a
event.
band,
Yeah, for
not Bob and
quantum
I, but
instruments and
called,
quantum music.
it's called
It will be
Ion
so much
Maiden.
fun.
Ion Maiden.
Yeah, it's
Oh
a
my God.
rock band with a bunch of quantum executives. We've done a couple of gigs.
Let's do it. I'm really darn serious about it. So we have to move on with questions. Orla, uh, um,
Yeah, I'll take this one.
yes, please.
What can organizations do now to prepare for a quantum future, especially when it comes to security?
Ooh, and I see questions in the chat as well. And I'm dropping another artist, innovator in the chat as well, Helen. A lady I recently met in Greece who is looking at paint and new types of paint based on quantum. But Thomas, to your question, and then to one of the to Marie, I think you were dropping some comments in the chat as well. When I was at Microsoft, we launched an initiative called Quantum Ready because we did see this gap in the market to educate C-suite in particular as to what's coming. Because much like we saw with AI, it's not just a tool, it's a complete paradigm shift, right? So, in order for AI to be successful, we saw that organizations needed to focus not just on strategy, but the culture that could embrace that strategy. And that meant bringing different voices to the table. So I saw another question in the chat about, entry level. So for AI to be successful, you need all different types of backgrounds to be for it to land. Not just your IT developing the AI in an ivory castle, but also bringing in your subject matter experts in finance or whatever the process is, right? The same is absolutely true of quantum. And so to Chris's point, it will require a diverse set of folks to get involved to make it successful too. And so really wanted to try and drive education into the C-suite around that. And that's where Quantum Ready came from. And it has, modules on, what does it mean to create a quantum strategy? Giving you some examples of the use cases, some of them I shared already. And then one of the modules that the team had just launched was around security and quantum security, Thomas. And so trying to guide people on their journey to understand not only the opportunities that quantum can create, but then also the risk that you take by not getting quantum ready or Malak, quantum safe. So, for quantum safe, like just think about financial records, healthcare records, or government data that Malak referred to, where it's available today. It may be secure today, but it's not going to be secure tomorrow. So there's this notion that bad actors are, harvesting today so that they can crack it tomorrow. So you as an organization, you got to get ready now because the bad actors are going to be out there and they're getting ready, right? And so some of the things that we talk to leaders about doing is inventory where cryptography is used in your organization today, inventory where that critical data is today, right? Start looking at where your dependencies are on current encryption methods and algorithms like RSA and whatnot. Start to engage, your vendors. It's not just, you see it today. It's not just your organization that needs to be secure. It's where you take dependencies on your partner organizations, your suppliers. So start talking to them today about where they're using current encryption methods as well, right? I think training your team, like skilling, we see it now. And Chris, to your point around the jobs that will be available today, we need to start skilling people today. And so skill your organization, and it's a leadership, issue, not just IT again, right? It's a bottoms up, tops down thing, security. You got to really skill your organization and get your organization to pivot. I think you can already start piloting today. I think NIST already came out with some new standards and whatnot. So I think you can get educated and up to speed today on what those are and start experimenting today. I think folks like Quantinuum, Microsoft, any of the hyperscalers out there are releasing tools for you to start experimentation today. And then, it's as with life, everything changes in a minute. And so keep monitoring as well the landscape for more tools and more standards as well. So I think lots to do today to get ready. And so, there's no point in waiting. If you wait until 2030, it's going to be too late.
This is so true. When we think about it, we sometimes kind of lose focus, but um, quantum AI is coming. It's already here. And while listening to you, Orla, I recalled how recently I was trying to battle with the American Express. They insisted that we provide all of our tax information. When they request information, you're about to give it to them because, American Express, it's your card. And then I noticed there was a link when I hovered over it, which I always do, that it was an outside company. And I called American Express, suggesting that I will even come to their office, not to send the information, sensitive tax information to a third party. And they threatened to cancel the corporate credit card if we don't share this data with their supplier. So how can you trust this kind of giants with your most critical information that impacts your personal life, your business, when they might be compliant, but their suppliers, their outside vendors could not even have a clue about cybersecurity, about the impact that this can create, because we all, I think, are getting letters about the security breach these days. I think I'm not alone. I'm getting stacks of these letters. So it's a separate issue. We did have a webinar on quantum AI, cybersecurity aspects in March. I encourage you to go back and view the video, and we'll do another one because these technologies are developing so quickly that we always have to catch up, and it's kind of everlasting process, as Malak rightly said, learning on the fly. So Orla, I'm curious. I keep seeing your really fascinating posts about quantum. They're so enlightening, and you use golf links kind of as a parallel. What prompted you to start the Quantum Link series? How do you see quantum and AI working together, not to say in relation to golf?
It wasn't necessary. Thanks, Helen. It wasn't necessarily intentional. And a lot of fun in life is not as a result of intention, right? But I guess a few things. Number one, when I was at Microsoft, I was very involved with UNESCO on the International Year of Quantum, which is this year. And so there is a big campaign that UNESCO's investing in to try and drive awareness across, from general public to business organizations around the opportunity that quantum can create and the risks that it might also introduce as well. So that was, just want to make sure that there's awareness out there. But when I was at home recently, my brothers were also talking to me, and we're a big golf family. And so I was starting to explain superposition and entanglement and these concepts that I've had to wrap my brain around over the last few years in golf terms, and then I just happened to make a post when I was at home in Ireland around, the link between cancer and golf and all this stuff, And I think that's what just led me to, I said, you know what, one day, a bit like Malik, my head is everywhere. I just thought, you know what, I'm going to exert some of my energy and just write some articles and see where it goes, And, folks seem to be liking
You
it.
start a book. Like Bob Kirk wrote a book with his co-author about quantum and pictures, which is really revolutionary. I think your approach could be so user-friendly and so helpful, not to scare away and really
Thank you.
inspire.
Thank you, Helen. I think quantum is just so important and so wonderful that it's too important to keep locked away in a lab. I think everybody, like it's all around us in nature. Like I'm fascinated by it. And so I think by comparing it to golf with some golf analogies, it's helping break down, even for me, some complex thoughts. So I'm going to keep going. I promised like an 18 post series, like 18 holes in a golf course. I think I've got hole 4 is next up.
The
So
book is ready,
I'll keep it going.
and the book is ready.
Okay, and maybe I'll write a book. Okay.
Yeah, I read the first one and it's just awesome. So I encourage everyone to go find Quantum Hole posts on her LinkedIn page.
Oh, thanks, Tom.
Quantum
You're very
links.
kind.
Yeah,
We really have to get going. We have a couple of quick questions to Malak. And Malak, you know how much I love you, and I can't stop listening to you, but we really have to be very brief with the rest of the questions, because then there will be some additional questions we would like to throw to the panel, and we would love to engage our audience.
Yeah.
So, Tom, can you please go ahead with a question for Malak?
Okay, Malik, let's see. Can we, many governments currently are racing to establish digital sovereignty. With quantum AI reshaping the computational hegemony, how do you see this affecting the balance of power, and what safeguards should be built into international law to prevent technological monopolies?
I'll try to be concise. For those who joined after I talked a lot. So that's why I give the possibility to my colleagues in order to have words with me. Otherwise, I keep on going. Thank you, Helen, for telling me concise. So actually, the monopoly, technological
Fast, please.
monopoly, yes, technological monopolies are happening already. And we can see how United States is, and I wrote about it, is using technology in not soft power, but now it's hard power. So we saw, and it's not political, it's really strategic point. And we saw how President Trump, he came to the Gulf, and it was based on how the strategy United States is using, and it was, I wrote about it before he does all what he did. So actually there is tendency into monopolistic and kind of and actually the monopoly is done by different states, but it's done on a race which is different kind of different let's say coalitions are competing each other, and they're competing themselves within the coalitions. And we've seen the BRICS, we've seen others, and how to prevent that from a national law and international law. It cannot be preventable because actually they put it under the national security prerogative, and you cannot enter into telling the country, or they will not accept to go into treaties or other binding instruments in order to alter themselves from using the technology as hard power. So I stop there.
Mostly agree with you. Here's where I will slightly and very respectively, I would say lovingly, disagree with you. The thing is, this kind of technologies acquire really mind-boggling investments, which aspiring companies and emerging economies not always have at their disposal. And in all fairness, when President Trump came to Middle East, recently bringing this plethora of technology giants, they were not just American companies. If you recall, Quantum is mostly in the UK. They do have a small, probably a smaller office in Isiton, Colorado. But overall, I can't agree with you more about the need to prevent the monopolies. My read of this is that if technology is really breakthrough, and now we see, you remember how Orla mentioned about the fragility of quantum, and I see that there are aspiring quantum companies now which come up with the revolutionary technology where you don't have to have this kind of freezing temperatures and other factors to preserve the quantum, the qubits, from disintegrating or whatever the best term use for them to collapse. So what do you think, since you mentioned this kind of growing monopoly situation, what do you think might work for the emerging economies to participate meaningfully in the quantum AI race without falling into what you refer to as dependency models? And what role do you see maybe for public-private academic coalitions in this transformation?
I would get back one moment to argue the case of Quantinuum. Actually, Quantinuum went into Qatar as an American entity, and it is under the American law. So in that case, it's regardless of if it is a small office or bigger office. We know very well that it was if you exist in United States and you abide by the laws of United States and you are you have an existence legally over there, it's under the you are entering into international collaboration under the American law. So actually, they are still, even though they sign MOUs or they enter into joint venture, we will see how later on the activities will happen based on export control. So this is number one. So the long arm monopoly is still there. So the US has the last word on that transaction. This is number one. Then I will answer quickly the question on immersion, let's say, economies. There is a kind of openness when you have money and you have the capabilities, you will enter with the big players. You will enter with other strong economies based on different, either it's a contract from state to state, bilateral agreement, or it's within the companies themselves, if it allows. So it's the incentive is there because there is know-how transfer, there is investment. If a big company in the United States like Microsoft enter, for example, in African country, there is money is going to be involved as maybe a foreign direct investment deal or other deals, which is very important for the emerging economies. But at what cost? This is the question that from one transaction to another, we need to check what it is and what is at stake, because at the end of the day, always the strong economy dictate how things are happening, and we see that with China and Africa. So at the end of the day, it's something, there's a lot of diplomacy and political input in it, because the technology has dual use, and also it is it's a sensitive technology, whether quantum or AI. So at the end of the day, the last word in the strong party and not the other one.
I think we should have a special conversation, this very, very sensitive topic. I would say in a direct sense, because as I mentioned earlier, the risk of this kind of dual use technologies getting into bad actors' hands generates existential threat. So it is a very, very complex issue. And if there is interest, and please, the audience, send us your feedback regarding if you would like us to have a special event dedicated to this sensitive issue of openness, of monopolies, and how to regulate or deregulate, because there is another very big player who you, Malik, have not mentioned yet in your, as always, brilliant remarks. It's China. And it's right now, it's basically between US, or let's say the West, and China in this race. And China declared that, not declared, they announced that they have, that they're working on thousands of quantum computers that will be very reasonably priced. And quantum dominance right now with the security issues is really a critical matter. It's not, it goes way beyond cybersecurity. It goes to security. So now it's really between the superpowers. You take it or leave it. I'm not condoning it, but this is our reality. So with this, Tom, I suggest we move to open the floor to our participants. And if we will have a little time left, we have some questions left for the panel, but I really, really want our audience to participate. Are there questions from the audience?
I'm going to add, if you want to, under the React button, there's a little thing called raise your hand. If you want to come on camera and ask the question, please do.
Dr. Keeper Lane Shark, is she on? Dr. Keeper?
She
I
was
don't-
early. No, no,
Um,
doesn't look
okay.
like.
John Reddix. Let's then just go. I know that Uga, you with us?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
Yes, Uga. First of all, thanks so much for your immense help with creating the posters for our announcements. I'm being asked about who does it, and I can highly recommend Uga to all of you for whatever marketing and communications task he's open. He's based in Nigeria, and he volunteers with us for a long time, and I can only praise Uga. So Uga, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Uh, for a while now, I have been asking, and basically, I've just been sitting down and listening to everyone. First, I really want to thank every one of the panels for everything that you've shared so far. Looking at the fact that in this part of the world, we don't get much of this information, and this is a learning space for me. So I have two very important questions, basically, which is coming from the marketing perspective. So the first question is, first of all, I just finished a certification course on marketing, and I'm looking to see ways I can dabble into the whole AI thing. And my first question is, how do you see entry-level marketers contributing meaningfully to the growing intersection between AI, ethics, and quantum innovation? So that's the first question. Then the second question is, as someone like myself who is passionate about tech marketing, what foundational skills should I focus on and be an asset to companies when applying for jobs or when volunteering for companies? Thank you.
Who wants
Do
to
you want
take?
to take?
Chris, is your question because you talk about jobs.
So, okay, here we go. So two great questions. I think in terms of the second part of your question first, marketing skills, I would encourage you to uh, look at courseware. I'm sure there's courseware on Coursera or LinkedIn Learning, um, Udacity. There's lots of ways to get information about marketing skills. And I would encourage you to look at modern channels, right? How to use TikTok, how to use Instagram, certainly LinkedIn. Um, odds are you're probably not going to be working at an elite newspaper with all due respect, right? It's like you want to go to the edge. My general guidance is chase the maelstrom, find the chaos, go for the mayhem. So figure out what's going to replace Facebook, right? What's going to be the next channel? Blue Sky, maybe. And look at the thought leaders, the innovators using those tools and learn from them, mimic them, imitate what they do, take what they do and transform it using your own voice, your own kind of technique and perspective. I think there's lots, and then the other part of it is I think there's lots of opportunity around work in this space as a PR, comms, marketing person, and be the one that comes to the interview with a portfolio with a set of deliverables and work products that you can point to and say, yeah, I did this for this organization, I did this for that organization, I worked with this person on coming up with this strategy, and this is how we executed it. So you need, proof points. You need actual examples of your work to share to get hired or work at a company or start your own company. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's very helpful. But one more thing, for someone who doesn't have, let's say, none of these portfolios or something he or she has worked on before, how do we get on this?
Well, so do it. So years ago, this is bore you with more backstory on me. I was in the jingle biz in New York. I wrote music for TV commercials, and I took a course at Pace on how to write jingles. And it was like a learning experience for me to figure out what the process was. And I'd never really done it, but I put together what's called a reel. So I wrote jingles for like 5 sort of made up products. And this is what copywriters do as well in the ad business, right? Before you have a portfolio, you pick products and write a headline and copy and maybe identify an image or whatever. So you build the portfolio showing that you know how to do it, you know how it works. So I would encourage you to do that. Put together half a dozen examples of how you might market something using, modern media channels. Pick something from Microsoft, pick something from IBM, pick something from a startup, whatever. Here's how you would sell it using TikTok or whatever. Here's and just make it up. So you then have examples of how you think and how you work and how you create.
I think I'd jump in as well, Chris, if it might help Uga. Um, so I think as an early in career, it's always really attractive to have folks like that on my team because you bring a new, fresh lens into the business. Um, and I think we are with AI, ethics, quantum, all sort of converging. You can bring a new way of questioning things, like looking at messages, right? Is it a diverse message? Have we collaborated with a set of diverse voices to create the message? And then just in terms of the tech, like what's really important is to have the ability to translate these really complex messages into messages that resonate with the target audience, be it a scientist, be it a business decision maker, be it, general public. And that kind of leads me to Chris's other point around channels. So when we went to market at Microsoft with Majorana 1, the announcement back in January, February, we actually experimented with different ways that we went to market. So it wasn't just the traditional, email campaign, PR, AR, social digital marketing. We also worked with a community of content creators that were, young content creators that had a viral following already on Instagram, on TikTok, on whatnot. And they were able to come into Microsoft's Quantum Lab, see it for their own eyes, and tell the story in their unique voice. And how all those content creators got started was with one post, one story, right? And so I think even if you aren't working in a company already, Uga, you can work for yourself. You can use, and you're digitally native, right? You've grown up with these AI tools. So you can use ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, you name it, right? Copilot to help you create content. Like you are that ultimate author. You're leading these AI tools in what your vision is. You can iterate on the content. You can create data-driven stories and whatnot, and just start putting your content out there and experiment yourself at marketing yourself. And that's a way to build your own portfolio.
I just add one more thing. Um, in every discipline, there's always a Miles Davis. So many of you may be too young to know who that is. He's a seminal jazz trumpet player and composer. So the current model might be there's a Taylor Swift, there's a Tony Hawk, there's a LeBron James, but there's someone at the top of the function who's doing whatever it is better than anyone else, a thought leader, if you will, an innovator, an evangelist, a champion. So track down the person or persons who are leading sort of tech, AI, quantum PR conversations, communication, and watch what they do. Imitate what they do. Learn from them.
Yeah, and to your point, Bob, I've put in the chat a guy named Andy Crestadona, who's Orbit Marketing, and he's always talking about AI and marketing. People who are wanting to learn marketing should follow him.
Cool.
We have more questions.
It looks like I can't pronounce the name. Up in the
Migda JC has a hand raised for a long time.
Oh yeah. Can you hear me? Is that
Yeah,
okay? Yeah,
we can.
I'm Michael. I'm a cybersecurity expert. Yeah, I've been listening to you all, and I want first of all to thank you all for great insight I provided. I got a question concerning the ethical consideration since we're going at a kind of convergence between quantum and AI. What do you think? Because we're struggling right now with the regulation with AI. You know how fast AI is advancing.
Oh, yeah.
And with quantum in the game as well, it's true that we're still looking for the QD. But my question is that concerning the regulation side, so what do you suggest as an idea on how we can tackle this challenge? Because it's an ongoing challenge, and we can't stop the emergence of this technology right now. So what's, from your own perspective as AI expert, quantum expert, what do you think how we can better tackle this challenge?
You want to start?
Yes, thank you. Actually, when we talk about regulations, we see that the United States, for now, with President Trump, he wanted deregulated. So it's the opposite way around. So there is a problem when it comes on to looking at the patchwork is happening of the regulation, the national laws. So you have some countries, they are, or we see the Union, the EU Act, it's regulating the use of the AI, not the AI, which is based on it's a risk basis, on a risk basis regulation point of view, which is not really regulating the technology. So the question is, and this is one of the things that it is a big problem when it comes to the ethics. Ethics is something that changes from one country to another. We can agree about some, because it goes by the culture of the country, and it goes also by the agreement on the international level on what is supposed to be ethical use of certain technology. And here we have a problem on the agreement of, and even if we agree on the problem, how we translate it into international binding like instrument, like treaty or something that it is binding. It's not just ethical codes and like that we are agreeing on the big forums and shaking hands and say life is beautiful, and actually everywhere else we see that the always the use of technology, it's not integrated, like the ethical use of technology or the regulation of technology make an exemption to the military use. So what's happening in the military use is governed by international humanitarian law. And actually we see very well countries are bombing each other, and what the international law is doing, nothing. I'm sorry to be skeptical, but this is a thing. What is the situation? I think we need a bottom-up approach, which is coming from companies in order to embrace a sustainable mindset, because sustainability, I come back to GASAI and the work of Helen when it comes to sustainability and what she highlighted and emphasized upon, and she does all the time. It's not environmental perspective. The sustainability, and I've done the doctrine of sustainability, which is under international law. It is the combination of different pillars, and it's the balance of interest on case-by-case basis in order to see at the certain case that it is in front of you, how to balance the environmental pillar with the societal pillar, with the economic pillar, which need to be done in a way that at this certain, how we can see it on a case-by-case basis, is to balance these competent interest at certain point. So it's not about environmental, societal problem is there with AI use, and quantum computing will make the gap even worse, and will create a new kind of bioweapon. It will create a new kind of mayhem, as the word used by Chris. So the issue here, where are we headed? It's our choice, and I think I'm skeptical with some optimism, because I see so many people like you, Helen, Chris, Toph, Busquion. We work on space related autonomous systems and others, and actually ethics is one of them. But at the end of the day, when it comes to military use, I'm sorry, yeah, they say it's at the end of the day, there are codes of military or humanitarian law that needs to be respected. Do we see that today? No, I'm sorry, we don't see it. So actually, we have a biggest problem there is tick and bomb, and it's moving alone without consideration to any ethical thing.
To only elaborate on what you said when you mentioned that it's also up to companies. But I would take us even a step further. It's actually, I strongly believe, up to the people, because politicians thrive on being elected. So unless the people, we the people, will not organize and reach out to them, and they understand this is one of the issues where they can either win or lose the election, nothing will change. Because there are so many laws and regulations in the works, and mostly they loosen the regulations. And what I see happening in the Senate right now is that the state laws already enacted in the states will not be active because of the AI and now quantum AI race, because the governments don't want to lose in this race. I would call it a rat race, because I strongly believe that we have to collaborate. But let's get real. The world is thrown apart, and what is happening right now is very difficult. I'm not gonna comment on this, and I encourage us not to get into politics, at least at the juncture of this webinar. But my point is that if we want regulations to be enacted and be reasonable, we the people have to reach out to politicians, and they need to take it into consideration or lose their next election, be it the legislative or be it the administrative elections. We the people have to have a voice. But if we are voluntarily silent, nothing is going to change. So next question.
Alex?
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Thank you for
Alex.
your presentation. It's great to see a lot of you that I have already met before, and some new connections that I've just made while we were on the chat. So I appreciate that. I mean, I've been in quantum computing now since 2019, kind of the same time period as Malak, though my journey has been very different. My goal was to use quantum computers and teach people about quantum computers and what they can actually do in the real world. So my question is going to be around startups. I had a startup that used D-Wave CQM, and I have a startup right now that's using gate quantum computers, and it's in epigenetic fragment assembly or de novo assembly. So, and we are also in the X Prize competition. So, first of all, I do appreciate the work that everyone here does in communication and policy and building an ecosystem and building the networks and conferences to bring us all together. Of course, you know, I don't do that, and I wouldn't know how to proceed in those areas. So, startups definitely need that. But the thing that I wanted to talk about, and even funding, I mean, there's so many VCs that are in this space, and they're very interested. The challenge that I'm seeing is in I think expectations that customers might have on what quantum computing can do, and now especially now that we've thrown AI along with quantum computing, AI has its own challenges. We're kind of mixing the waters with putting in AI and quantum together and somehow saying that's going to be even better. But from a research standpoint, I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done in figuring out what can these technologies actually deliver and set the right expectations. So I think from a startup perspective, I mean, as we're building algorithms, we have to go to the market and try to create some new technology or algorithm that's going to be successful. And we're competing against classical GPUs that are already very good or getting better every year. And quantum is not really ready, or it's getting there, but even if it gets there, classical will, the classical is a moving goalpost, so it will keep moving. So my question is, what can you do? What are you doing to help startups in being able to stay there long enough? That requires funding, it requires support from customers, pilot projects, just connections with customers where we can talk about, for example, a supply chain optimization solution, where they're willing to work with startups, even if it's not a practical, implementable solution as of now. But universities can do that research and play the long game, but startups cannot do that. So any thoughts there from what you have discussed with others, with companies, with the government on helping startups to stay in the game for long enough?
You're addressing this question, Alex.
Anyone who's willing to, or anyone who has thoughts about it.
Does the panel have comment on this, or shall I try with panelists, experts?
Who wants to step in?
Well, I can
Chris.
say something. Alex, nice to see you, first of all, and congrats
Yep.
on your ongoing progress. I think, as we all kind of know on some level, right, it's around addressable opportunity, right? Startup has got to be bringing something to the market that the market needs, that's filling a gap, that's addressing white space. So I think at a meta level, that's got to be the primary focus. That's how you get, investors interested. That's how you get people interested in working for you. How you get executives maybe involved. How you get business partners to engage. I think there's also myriad funding sources, again, as you know, but I mean, governments are spending a lot of money investing, in quantum technologies to varying degrees. Recently, quantum computing, clocks and sensors are getting a lot of focus because of their potential military applications, providing solutions for things like GPS-denied environments, quantum networking as well. So there's lots of opportunities. I'd say look for where there's, white space, and then look not only to government funding, maybe grants, but as well as VC, private equity, lots of potential sources of investment, convincing that you have a product that's going to generate attributable revenue in the next 7 to 10 years. That'd be my 2 cents.
Yeah, I
GASAI,
appreciate that. And this is when I've thought through it for like strategy for a startup. There's you can have a strategic goal of going towards quantum, but then, as Christopher is saying, we also need a strategy for a product that we can deploy right now, which could be an AI product or something that is with technology that actually works right now.
Okay.
You want to comment?
I might give a hint, Helen, because we work with startup, but I don't want to take the floor all the time. First of all, I would like to see if Orla, I ask you a question, if you worked with startups when you were with Microsoft? And I will have my input quickly.
Well, we did, yeah. So in lots of different ways, Malak. So one is from a hardware perspective. So we were at photonics, atom computing in Colorado. So work with them to look at all the different ways in which I guess I was just to backtrack a little bit. Like the quantum ecosystem is very interesting to me because of the amount of collaboration, right? So ultimately, whilst there is fierce competition to, get there first, there is also collaboration across the scientific community because the North Star is the same, right? To try and get realize this milestone of practical quantum advantage. So as a result, I just wanted to share that context because that's why Microsoft was and is actively collaborating with competitors that are startups, but then other organizations like AWS, Google and whatnot. So yes, we were partnering with them. And then I think actually Anchor used to be a former colleague. He's on the call and he had more experience working with our incubator program as well that looked at beyond, the partnerships that we had, who were up and coming in the ecosystem that could be great for us to partner with. Because we realized, or Microsoft realized, I have to stop saying we, but Microsoft realized, we can't do it all by ourselves. We need partners in the ecosystem that are up and coming. So yes, Malak, and then to Alex, I think it's a similar challenge for any startup, right? Being able to sell your vision and create belief that your vision is possible based on realistic financial expectations. And quantum, because it is so early, it's those expectations that you have to be really, really careful with investors. And so I'm sure you're running into that, but I did see, that in some of the VC funding reports that there is more investment going into the quantum ecosystem than there ever was before. And in terms of how Orla Neary can help, or any of us on this call, on the panel can help, I think we're helping by creating awareness out there. And, Malik, your initiative around the summit, creating huge awareness around how quantum is not, 10, 15 years out. It's actually nearer than that. And so I think that's how we can help create the conditions that enables more VCs to see that there is real opportunity here, Alex. And I think, with the UNESCO International Year of Quantum campaign, that's part of what they're doing too, to attract more government and commercial investment into this space. So hopefully you benefit from it.
I truly appreciate it. And, of course, I've been benefiting from all of the big players, Microsoft, Amazon, IBM, they've been all part of my education as well. So they've been investing for decades in this. I'm just starting out recently. So yeah, I appreciate the answers.
One quick thought about where else to go. There are places now that are not as trivial to look for investment, but as Orla mentioned, and some of other experts, the ecosystems now is kind of the buzzword, but banks are very active right now. If you look at what's going on in JP Morgan Chase with their quantum experiments and research, they published over 100 articles, HSBC, Citi. This might be another quick thought about kind of not your usual go-to places for startup investments. But if there is synergy, if you know what they're doing, you can always find the direction that they are taking where you might have a fit. Another one, a quick thought, look for latest investments in your area, who invests. For example, Dragon Global comes to mind. They invest into startups with, I believe, for sure, AI and possibly quantum. So these are the directions you can follow in addition to, and of course, as we discussed, marketing, not just working with the technology, but making sure that you already have a brand, that investors feel that scalability is there. Because without scalability potential, it's very difficult, if possible at all, to find investment. With this, Tom, I think we're ready for
Yes,
one last question.
Neil has one question, and after that, we're going to wrap it up.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. First of all, I want to thank you all for sharing your firsthand insights on quantum mechanisms in the current world. And I have a question regarding cybersecurity, and it was one of the topics and points that you have discussed in this panel. And so most encryption algorithms right now, they rely on large primes, or to be more pedantic, they are called NP problems, right? But quantum computers could break them easily. And so with the advent of quantum computers, what risks does this pose for systems like Bitcoin blockchain and other financial services? And are there any security measures that are being developed to protect against those threats? And how far have we advanced in encryption algorithms?
Any volunteers to answer this?
I think Malik should start, and then I'm happy to weigh in.
So actually, when it comes to regulations, we started seeing since the time Biden administration presented the first directive and the timeline of the transition into the post-quantum and presenting the threat. Before that, we were actually singing to the choir who are really not convinced that quantum computing will be there. Since then, it became to a reality that they realized that the quantum computing will be there, and actually the time of the transition will be taken long. And we've seen top expert at the Quantum Innovation Summit, and Chris was there, who can also highlight my intake to this. Actually, what they say that we don't have enough in order to do the necessary transition into the quantum safe algorithms. And it's going to be messy. It's going to be very expensive, and it's not one-time thing. It's going to be evolutionary activity that you need always, because as Helen said and highlighted, it's a rat race. It's a race between adversaries. When it comes to cybersecurity, is a race between the good one and the bad ones, the nefarious actors. And here, who is the nefarious actor? You never know. They are against each other. So it's a race, and it should be coping. Are we safe? It depends right now on the level of the readiness that we have in action. And finally, the security and the quantum folks and the cybersecurity guys who are pro PQC, post-quantum cryptography, they came to term that it is a complementary work that they need to do together. Before, they were like Tom and Jerry. They did not like each other. And when you hear about post-quantum cryptography, the other one is telling you they're not real quantum solution because people, they did not understand. Now with the awareness is there and regulation are coming, we will have the regulation from the UAE Cybersecurity Council, who is our partner in the Quantum Innovation Summit, and we will be launching different other activity by the end of this year together for awareness, and they will be issuing the regulation when it comes to quantum transition into the post-quantum era.
So just to follow what Malik was saying, there's talk of what's called cryptographically relevant quantum computers appearing in the next 5 to 10 years, and they'll be able to crack. They call it Q Day or Y2Q, right? When they can crack current RSA and ECC encryption protocols. So NIST, the National Institute of Standards and Technology in Washington, D.C., collaborating with other standards bodies all over the world, have put together what they call quantum safe algorithms. They've tested and reviewed and approved these 4 algorithms, and companies are now deploying these to protect their data, right? The idea is that, in theory, harvest now, decrypt later is a threat that is a threat to all organizations, all companies, all governments. The idea is that there are non-state actors, there are competing companies, competing countries that are stealing data now and parking it somewhere with the idea that in 5 or more years, maybe they can decrypt it and then sell it back to the owner in a ransomware attack. Coca-Cola gets a email saying, we have your IP, we need 5 trillion in Bitcoin by Thursday, any questions? So those are the kinds of things that are going on. And there are many companies that are going to market with solutions. Sandbox AQ, which was spun out of Google in, I think, 2013, has a solution. They work with a lot of large government agencies in the U.S., other niche companies, Crypt. There's discussion as well around QKD versus PQC, right? Quantum key distribution versus post-quantum cryptography. One is physics, QKD, one is math, PQC, right? But it's an important topic for sure. I'm glad you posed that question because that's something that really all organizations, as Malik was implying, are needing to focus on like sooner than later because it's going to be expensive, it's going to be time consuming. Transitioning a compute environment, can easily take a decade, right? Based on historical figures. So that's kind of the take on where that is.
All right, Helen,
Yes.
let's go
Yes.
ahead and wind this up here. It's running a little longer than we thought, but that's okay.
It's hard to stop. We have such a fascinating discussions. Thank you, our amazing experts. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, our participants. What can I say? It's becoming increasingly more and more exciting to host these events. It takes immense effort to organize them. So I encourage you to reach out and offer your support, participation, ideas, equally important. We noticed lobbying as a part of the suggestion. These are topics for conversation way beyond our webinar. But I'm so excited that my idea to create this community it is actually realizing. I have a new stimulus in life, even though my family members don't always understand why I disappear for weeks working on something they don't believe will generate any significant value. But I am a strong believer. Like Orla said, I'm not a physicist, I'm not a mathematician, but I'm somebody who is used to commercializing technology and making sure that people work with each other and benefit from technology versus feeling threatened by it. With this, I again thank you from the bottom of my heart for sharing maybe the most important asset after health is our time, for being with us. And I look forward to our next event and you joining us. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
See you.